Hello and welcome to episode number 142, where I speak with Dr. Vignesh Devraj of the Sitaram Beach Retreat in Kerala, India. We talk about male fertility and the problems that Dr. Vignesh sees in his clinic and how he helps men to improve their fertility. So please stay tuned. Hello and welcome to Elements of Ayurveda, Empowering Wisdom of Life. I'm your host, Colette, and in this podcast, I hope to empower you to take charge of your own health by sharing the holistic teachings of Ayurveda, the ancient healing tradition from India. We will also discuss topics like health and wellness, nutrition, yoga, fitness, meditation, breath work, and much more, as well as interviewing lots of inspiring people along the way. My humble wish is to help you to connect to your true nature, to Mother Nature, and to each other. If you like the content, be sure to subscribe to the show, and the new episodes will automatically download for you to enjoy. If you're new to Ayurveda, I recommend you listen to the first couple of episodes where I do an introduction to Ayurveda and the mind-body types. I've also set up a Facebook group for us to connect and to support each other, and I'd love for you to join me over at Elements of Ayurveda podcast group. And now, here's the show. Hello and welcome to the Elements of Ayurveda podcast. Today, I'm very happy to welcome Dr. Vignesh Devraj, who is a fourth-generation Ayurvedic healer and founder, chief physician of Sitaram Beach Retreat in Kerala, a space for authentic healing and transformation. Dr. Devraj is an international speaker on natural healing, Ayurveda, meditation, and transformation. He is a committed practitioner and researcher on Panchakarma, an ancient body purification method which activates the body's innate healing energies, providing the foundation to true health. Dr. Devraj's expertise lies in explaining ancient healing concepts and making it more accessible to the modern world. He is an avid traveler who studies and explores the lesser-known healing methods from around the world. Dr. Devraj holds his graduate degree from Kerala University and postgraduate degree from Rajiv Gandhi Health University in Bangalore. Dr. Devraj believes true health is a foundation of true happiness. He considers sustained optimal health is humanity's birthright and envisions a future where mankind is organically immune to all preventable diseases and in harmony with nature's energies. Welcome to the show, Dr. Vignesh. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Colette, for inviting me for the show. I'm really looking forward for this interaction.
Yes, I'm really looking forward to chatting about male fertility. We've talked a lot on this podcast about female fertility, conception and pregnancy, and we've mentioned the importance of preconception preparation for both men and women. However, we have not discussed male fertility in detail, so I'm really delighted to have you here today so we can have this conversation. And I think I'd like to start with, what male fertility problems are you seeing in your clinic?
First of all, before I answer that question, as you said, you've been doing a lot of female fertility talks. And this is one thing that I see in Ayurveda also. Even in my retreat, I see a ratio of 70% to 30% female to male ratio. And I think more women are interested in alternative integrative healthcare. And one thing that I see, when I see men coming, when I ask them what made you come here, they say that their girlfriend or their wife or mother told them to come and do this.
That happens a lot, right? And that's why I know we have mostly female listeners out there, but it's usually the women in the men's lives that are, encourage them to get on track with their health.
Well, I think the issue is men are trained to think that, weakness is not good.
That's
being
true.
Unhealthy is not good. That's how we all are trained from the childhood. Men should not cry. And women are told you have to take care. It's okay to express your feelings. That is absolutely fine. And I would like to share one of my experience. Once there was a couple coming. It was their first consultation after their long jet lag flight. And the first consultation was, the lady gave the pre-consultation questionnaire. So we were going through all the concerns that she wanted to have, like hormonal issues, hot flashes. I mean, she was in her menopause, and sleep was not correct, high blood pressure, digestion issues, and all of this. It took like half an hour. And then she tells, okay, now it's time for my husband to sit. And then he sits and he says, so what would you like to make sure that it needs to be improved in your health? Said nothing. I just came for I just accompanied my wife, and I just wants to have a good Ayurveda massage and maybe Shirodhara. And then suddenly, within few minutes, you could see the face expression of the wife, like, how on earth can he say such a lie in this midday sun? And then he was like, he is not sleeping well, he's snoring, and he's having sleep apnea, he's stressed out, and he's having too much gas these days. I can't stand him. Doctor, he's lying. And then suddenly, I have to ask her to please go out. And then when I was having a short talk with this gentleman, he was saying, sorry, I thought, for me, disease is like when I'm bedridden. Or if something is really bad. I don't, otherwise, this is how many men are told,
it's so
for
true.
you, health is an issue when you're old, not when you're young.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why in yoga and Ayurveda you see more women than men, but now I see a change, more men are coming. That's why whenever I go, I always talk a lot about men's health, because that is also part of the community. It's not, we can't just fly with one wing, you need both the wings to fly.
Absolutely, absolutely. And they're half the equation when it comes to conception and starting a family.
Exactly.
And I agree with you. I do think men see it as a weakness to be complaining or going to the doctor. And I think this is something we need to shift, and that, men understand that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to express your emotions. And I think that's what we need more of in the world today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's slowly shifting. Things are
is.
not the same as always.
So what fertility problems in particular are you seeing in the clinic, Dr. Vignesh?
Today, most of the fertility, unless there is a genetic issue with them, there is something that is not curable at all. It's a completely incurable world. They don't have any possibility of having a healthy sperm.
Right.
Otherwise, it's mostly related to their lifestyle.
Okay.
You see, many men, when they think about male fertility or male sexuality, they think it is some specific herb from the Himalayas or somewhere from Tibet that has to come from the mountains. And once they take that, they're going to have their masculinity and the testosterone booster. See, male fertility and sexuality is a result of their whole lifestyle and their diet. Mm-hmm. And when you put that back, along with that, when you do a real intensive detox like Panchakarma, according to their conditions, that speeds it up. You can get into a healthy lifestyle by following good healthy habits and eating right, sleeping right, taking care of yourself. If it can happen in 3 to 6 months, when you do an intensive Panchakarma, whatever that you can achieve in 3 to 6 months, we can reduce it by maybe 1 or 2 months. But that doesn't give you a guarantee. After the Panchakarma, you have to go back and again get back into a healthy lifestyle. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we see issues of, the sperm count is not correct, or you see that the female, okay, there is this general notion, a woman by biology, she is infertile for a few days every month. Mm-hmm. It's not infertile, it's just a part of the process.
Right.
You cannot call it. They cannot conceive on few days when they are menstruating, on certain days, mm-hmm. when you check the calendar, depending on the moon. Mm-hmm. But men, on the other hand, they are known to be fertile all the time.
Right.
But that doesn't mean they are fertile all the time. They also go through certain aspects. But when it comes to stress, you see, a man's emotion and the sexuality is highly related. When people talk about, I don't understand what's the relation between psychosomatic. We just need to ask a man, how his thoughts influence his sexual arousal and things like that. Mm-hmm. So a man's mindset and his stress, how he deals with stress, how his sleep patterns are, how his eating habits, all of this has a huge influence on his vitality. And vitality is another diplomatic name for his sexual ability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And this is what we were mentioning a moment ago, is that I feel that men have been raised in the past in a way that to not express themselves. And it was, like you said, weakness to cry and a weakness to show your emotions. And this, of course, has a huge effect on their fertility, as you're saying.
Oh, yes. But now you see the whole theme of being vulnerable is
Yes.
okay. And
Yes.
that is being vulnerable is actually stronger. That is changing certain aspects. Slowly it will take time and it will change.
Yes. And I think, the women I talk to are, really encouraging that women want men to be vulnerable and to be open. And it leads for not only better relationships, but also better health.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. So let's talk, Dr. Vignesh, about what's happening on a tissue level, the Dhatu level. What Dhatu is responsible for the production of sperm? Now, I have done a whole episode previously on the Dhatu, so the listeners are familiar with that. And if a listener is not familiar with that, I'll link it in the show notes. But what Dhatu is responsible for the production of sperm?
See, in Ayurveda, we have the foundations on three things. That is, doshas, dhatus, and malas. And these three combined together is what is called as Sharira, or the human being. And he did not say individually, this is important, that is important. He gives importance to all the three things, dosha, dhatu, and mala.
And just to explain to people, malas are wastes.
Exactly. Malas are the side residues of whatever we processed. Like the sweat is a waste, urine is a waste, the poop is a waste. And there are sub wastes also, like hair and nail is also considered as a waste because we cut it off and leave it. So the word dhatu literally means that which supports, that which nourishes. That is the foundation because of which we are surviving, because of which we are thriving. And when we have the seven dhatus, the seven dhatus has a sequence. Just like the way the water flows down the stream and then it goes through, when you're watering a field, the main water goes through one thing and then it splits and then it goes through various channels and then it reaches the roots of each plant. Same way, the seventh dhatu is the last penultimate dhatu where it is called as Shukra. And we also have in Indian Vedic astrology, we also have a planet called Venus, which is also called as the planet for romance or love or communication. It's also associated with the name Shukra. The word Shukra, it is having the capacity to reproduce. And the quality of your life is your ability to reproduce. And when we say reproduce, we are not just talking about sexuality, we're talking about cellular level. Every cell needs to reproduce. It has to die and a new cell has to be formed. So the seventh dhatu is called as Shukra, and that Shukra dhatu, if it has to perform at its best, all the previous six dhadus also need to function best. So it's like the chain is strongest at its weakest link. Right. So unless all the dhadus are performing at its best, only then the seventh dhatu will also has its benefit. It's like the last part of the whole chain.
Right. I see it almost as a refining process, whereas we have this rasa, the 5 elemental juice, and each dhatu takes its nutritional that it needs for that dhatu. And then the final one, like you said, being shukra dhatu. So if there is a problem along the way, shukra is oftentimes the one to get affected because it's the last one in that chain, that refining process, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
It is like, when you see a plant and you see the flower is the ultimate expression of that plant. The same is with the shukra.
Oh, that's a nice way of explaining it. Yes.
And when you see something is wrong with the flower, you don't go and fix the flower, you go and fix the root.
Exactly.
You go, and that is why we start with ama, because ama is the beginning of all the problems with all the dhatus. That is why ama has a lot of similarity with improper rasa dhatu. So once we correct the ama, the rest will automatically fix itself. So whatever is the lifestyle that is producing problems with too much of ama production, we first correct that. And that is where Panchakarma is so fantastic. By the way, Panchakarma is not for everyone. It is for people who are having diseases of overconsumption. If you take every disease in Ayurveda, it can be classified into diseases of overconsumption or diseases of malnourishment. So diseases of overconsumption, when you're going through that, Panchakarma is a cleansing process that we clean it in a cellular level where at the same time the body is not being affected. You see, when you clean the wall, you don't, destroy the wall. You just have to clean the wall. So today, the same way, when you clean the body, we should not destroy the body. We have to protect it at the same time. We have to clean it intensively by keeping its vitality. So that's the scientific process of panchakarma, which is starting with ama. Every dhatu is being cleansed. So when you have some issue with the shukra dhatu, we start with ama, which starts with your food, which starts with your lifestyle, which starts with your sleep. And parallelly, we do a lot of cleansing process. It could be Vamana, it could be Virechana, it could be enemas. Because in Ayurveda, one of the best therapies to improve the fertility of a male is there are plenty of enemas that are mentioned.
Great. And I definitely want to discuss the Panchakarma in detail in a moment. But before we go there, I do have more questions for you.
Yes, please. Yes.
So before the dhatus are vitiated, right? We talked about Rasa Dhatu being the first one in the chain and then Shukra being the seventh, the last one in the chain. Before they are vitiated, there's going to be, it's probably an ama buildup, right? And then that leads to a dosha aggravation, either Kapha, Pitta, or Vata, correct?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So could you give me some typical early warning signs? So the dosha aggravation is going to be the first warning sign, or one of the first warning signs that there's a problem in the body before it then goes into a tissue level. So could you give us just some general signs of aggravation for each dosha, and in particular in relation to male fertility?
In Ayurveda treatment, it is like, you kill the monster when it is little.
Right.
That's the concept. There is a Sanskrit sutra which says Chaya eva jaye dosham. In Sanskrit, this is how it sounds. But what it means is the moment you see something is going out of control, immediately kill it.
Yeah.
And
stop the progression.
Exactly. Yeah. The wise physician's ability is to bring this awareness to his patient and tell him how dangerous this can be in the later stage. It's like you see a dam and you see a slight leak. Maybe that leak at that time is going to look little, but a good electrician or a repairman is able to understand, is able to foresee if this is not fixed right now. Like we say, a stitch on time saves 9.
Right.
So the first thing when you see how it starts, it could be, okay, let's say he gets into a new job, he gets a promotion, he has to work too hard, and he's married. And then what could happen is he goes through enormous work and he's not able to finish his deadline. He comes back home very late and he's stressed. He brings his work back to his home and he's not able to connect with his partner. And then as a way of getting out of his stress, there could be a possibility of binge eating, or it could be overconsumption of alcohol, sugar, and then his sleep is affected. So here you see his sleep is affected, he is over-consuming and his digestion is impaired, and he is also mentally not his best. And usually once you start this, if it is not corrected immediately, then he will skip going to work out, he will skip taking care of his health. He might go for easy to purchase food, to be junk foods, because his energy is low, and then he will need instant gratification or instant energy needs like Red Bull or coffee, cappuccino, candy bars. And over this time, when you take this for 3 months and then it becomes 6 months, and then he will start noticing he's having overweight, and then he sees that he's having blood pressure. And then suddenly he would personally come and say, I feel I'm having a lower sexual libido, and some people might even reach it to, erectile dysfunction. And then later, it reaches, and then the wife says this is not going right way, and she also feels a frustration. And a stage happens that something needs to change, and they reach that intense frustration. And you see this in many couples, even though the woman will say he's never emotionally available, he's completely lost. It's just that his body is lost completely because he gave in to his those initial needs of instant gratification and distractions, and then he didn't change back, and he reached that stage. And now to get back, he has to it's not that you cannot come back, you can definitely come back, just like how he trained himself to get out of his natural rhythm. He just needs to change and give himself 3 to 6 months time.
Yes.
And in this place, that's where panchakarma, it's like a catalyst. What you can achieve in 6 months, maybe when you do a panchakarma, you reach that stage within 3 to 4 weeks.
Exactly.
That's where panchakarma comes. So here you see with the unhealthy lifestyle, unhealthy food, the rasa is affected, and then the blood is affected. And then if he is not working out, he will have muscle wasting, and then his sitting posture will be abrupt. He is not sleeping well. And all the dhadus are affected slowly. And then he reaches a stage where he has to depend on allopathic chemical medications like metformin or many other medications.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. And so for a person with a kapha aggravation, just giving people an idea of a typical problem with male fertility, would there be more sluggishness? Would there be less mobility of the sperm? Would that be a typical kapha aggravation?
Yes, that is one thing that we say. There are many different names in modern medicine for these diagnoses. But however, what we see is when the kapha is more, the word kapha, improper kapha and ama are quite similar in nature.
Yeah.
And good kapha and ojas is also similar in nature.
Yes.
Even though in Ayurveda, we give so much of fanatical obsession with vata dosha. If you read Charaka Samhita, there is one chapter just for vata. But there is no chapters mentioned for pitta or kapha because vata is given that much importance.
Yeah.
But for kapha, it is not given. But kapha is a result. It's a result of your lifestyle. And our body is actually 80%, 70 to 80% is kapha. So when you consume so much of food that are sticky in nature, that can produce a lot of ama, then at the end result, the end dhatu will also become sticky in nature. That is why they say that the motility of the sperm is low.
Yeah.
If you check the sperm count, things are fine, but still the motility is low. So once we correct the rasa dhatu and once we cleanse the whole gut, slowly within few weeks, the motility will also get better.
Great. And then for pitta, there may be more inflammation, maybe higher blood pressure. Would that be a typical aggravation?
The word in Sushruta, there is a discussion where should blood be considered as the fourth dosha.
Yeah. Okay.
So there was a discussion happening. So should we just restrict to 3 dosha or should we have the fourth dosha? But he said since the blood has similar values of pitta, so we don't have to really worry about adding another dosha. We can be comfortable with third instead of overlapping it with the qualities of pitta.
Right.
So all the aggravations when pitta goes up is something that you see similar in a pitta dosha of fertility issues. So it could be a high blood pressure, and low pitta also could mean lower blood pressure.
Yes. Yeah.
This can also have the fluctuation with the blood pressure, and you see that when somebody says they are having erectile dysfunction, see, erection in a man is the result of how healthy is his heart.
Okay.
Because the heart is the one that is pumping the blood.
It's the blood flow.
On the blood. Exactly. It's all about the blood flow.
Yeah.
So it is, on one hand, it is not appropriate to, isolate one dosha for this particular. Everything plays its part, but we can just look at what is dominant.
Yes, I'm just thinking about people out there who are listening and just like to explain what the typical, of course, all 3 doshas could be at play, but what's the typical signs of aggravation? So it's good to know that pitta aggravation is related more to the blood. And then for vata?
And see, for vata, when it comes, it has a lot to do with stress. See, the word vata, we think it is the wind and the air. However, it is the nervous system that we are looking at it.
Yes.
And if someone's sleep is disturbed, it affects everything. The ojas is also depleted. See, depletion of ojas and increased vata are quite the same. If you look at the qualities. So when vata is aggravated, he may lose his libido and he will feel like there is too much of, maybe there is anxiety, there is too much of stress, his sleep is affected, his vitality is low. He feels like he's having too much of energy, but he doesn't know where to focus and where to direct that energy.
Okay. Well, that's great to get some, just insights into the different dosha aggravation, how it shows up. So Dr. Vignesh, let's move on to now an example of you have a man coming into your clinic and you discover that Shukra Data is vitiated. If you could give us a case study or a typical way that you would handle this situation?
Okay. Usually, sometimes, what people come and tell me, in modern medical doctors, they have this terminology called off-the-label benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Off-the-label benefits means you're giving something, but you also have some other benefits along with the benefits that I mentioned in the label.
Okay.
So usually a man would come and say, I'm having sleep, I'm not able to sleep well. I'm having too much of mucus, asthma issues. I'm having low back pain, cervical pain, and I need some alcohol to go to sleep, and I go to sleep very late at night. And then after one or two consultations, he might even say that, okay, I'm not having libido, I'm not having the urge. And even if I have, it's very rarely, and I'm not able to be happy in that aspect of my life. This is one of the things that they would say. Sometimes they would come as a couple and say that, his spermogram is not showing things are right. We need to change that. But in general, this is a typical concern which you see in a person who's living in a corporate life, 9 to 5, or can sometimes have night shift.
Right.
And this gentleman, he also wants to have a baby, but he is not sure what is his status. When you do the spermogram, the motility could be better. It could have been better. Motility is the ability of the sperm to travel and reach the end point where the egg is formed.
Yeah.
So when that is there, what we address is the ama is too much or the kapha dosha is too much. And his lifestyle is in such a way that it is sedentary and he is consuming too much of food that are mucus producing, or refined white sugar, processed fat, gluten, alcohol, coffee, anything after you have it, if you feel a lot of mucus coming up your throat or your chest or your body, that is mucus producing. That is kapha producing food. So he's into that and he loves his coffee. So what we do, we go through the first few days, we prepare him to cleanse, because just like before you do a good exercise, you need to warm up so that the body is ready to take that stress that we are going to give to the muscles.
Sure.
Same way, because Panchakarma is a toxin releasing therapy. So before the toxin is being released, we have to prepare the body and make it safe enough to just let go of the toxins, not the body. So the first few days we go make sure that, the beauty of when you come to a place and do Panchakarma is, everything is set up for you.
Yes.
The doctor is taking care of you, the treatments are taken care of you, the food is taken care of you. You don't have to worry about changing your laundry, your bed, and you don't have to worry about your work. So that itself, a lot of decisions, the nervous energy is being invested to decide every day, that is being released.
I know, it's so wonderful to have everything taken care of.
Exactly. And after that, along with that, we give them treatments, we give them the medication to improve the digestion, to release the ama, we do some massages, and we do some sauna, like Svedana treatments. And afterwards, depending on the in such conditions, if it is, we do this ghee therapy, like 4 to 5 days, we increase the dosage of ghee. By giving ghee, what is happening is, we are preparing the body to get rid of the toxins.
Yeah.
And there are different types of toxins in the body, like water-soluble toxins. There are also toxins that are soluble in nature. So when you give this ghee, what happens is the body is getting, it's like, before you, if you have a late night dinner and you're lazy to wash your plates, what we do is we pour some water and some detergent and leave it overnight. And then the next morning, it's much easier to wash the plate so that it's not sticky in nature.
Right.
So the same way, the purpose of this ghee therapy, when you're taking this ghee, it melts all the sticky stuff in your gut and in cells of your body. And when you continue it for 3 to 4 days, on these days, he has to be quite strict in his food. Only rice soup is given. He has to sleep on time. And he should not do any exercise, because all the energy of the body is invested in cleansing.
Yes.
And if we use other things, we are distracting.
Exactly.
So, when you charge your mobile in flight mode, it charges much faster. Same way, we put him in a flight mode state so that
I
all
love
this
that.
energy is used to cleanse.
I love
Exactly.
that. We all need to go into flight mode every so often.
Exactly. So we prepare him, we tell him be silent as much as possible, and we serve the food to his room. And he is, on these 4 5 days, he has to be with himself. And we prepare him, we educate him. Because once a person knows the benefits, they will go to any extent to go through that.
Exactly.
Otherwise, why would people climb Mount Everest? They could just sit at home and have some beer.
Yes.
It's just a challenge, it's also a beautiful challenge, because the benefit of this challenge is you are literally saying goodbye to your old self. The old memories in your body is also going away by this ghee therapy.
Yeah.
And after that, if it is an issue with the sperm quality, what we do is, in some people, if they are having upper respiratory issues like asthma, this is also associated with that. We do a therapy called as Nasyam, where we pour some oil to the nose, and all the mucus that is on your upper respiratory tract, especially in the sinus region, is being expelled. And the other one is, we also, in some people, we do this therapy called as Vamana, where we give some special herbal drinks and make that person to vomit. Okay, some people find this quite strange. How can you make me vomit? It's so something that is not natural. But if you see the dogs, when they are not keeping well, what do? They go and eat the grass and they just vomit it out. And suddenly they hold the energy and digestion, and everything comes back to normal.
Yeah.
Same way, we as ancestors of our great ancestors, we were walking on 4 legs. Only recently we started walking on 2 legs. So whatever was on the upper respiratory tract, the gravity helped us to let it out. But today, when we are standing, we don't have the ability to release it naturally. That is why in Ayurveda, Nasyam is considered, the cleansing of the nose is considered to be a daily ritual, just like the way you wash and brush your teeth. You wash your nose, because something that is blocked there, we cannot let it out just like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is also why we do the vomiting therapy once in a while if you're having too much of kapha in the upper chest. And by doing that, yes.
And just because it's the closest exit point if it's in the upper chest.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the thing. Like you have the fire exits in the building, you look for the nearest exit. Like in the flight, you sit next to the emergency exit. That's what the thing is. So the mucus on the upper chest, the nearest exit is definitely through the mouth. So that's when we do that. And then if other condition is, we do a purgation where we give some herbs and we clean the gut, because gut is where the energy of the person enters. And this is also where the Rasa Dhadu's main seat is also. So the food that we are eating today is becoming Rasa, and then tomorrow it is becoming the blood. So once we clean that, this is where the Ama is entering the tissues. So once we clean that, and then the purgation is done. But all of this, I'm just giving a brief approach. It is not going to be the same for everyone. For everyone, it is going to be customized. Even the same person, when they repeat the Panchakarma next year, the treatment plan could be different, because they are a different person next year.
That's what's so special about Ayurveda, is that it is tailored to each person's uniqueness.
Exactly. And after that purgation, depending on the situation, depending on the number of days that we have, we do the Vasti or enemas. In Ayurveda, Vasti is considered as the king of all therapies. And in Sanskrit, we also have a name called as Ardha Chikitsa. The word Ardha means half. It's like 50% of your body is clean by doing the enema, because that's where majority of the toxins are stored. So in such conditions, we have a preparatory enema, and then we have the main purificatory enema, and then again we have a post purificatory enema. So that in Ayurveda, all the enemas has a oil medium in it, because the gut lining is oily in nature. It's like a mucous membrane. So that is why oil is always used in most of the enemas that we do, so that we don't use that oiliness there.
Right. And can I ask you a question about enema or vasti? The reason that it's deemed very important, is it because the rectum is so absorbent, or is it because it's the seat of vata?
Both of them are true. I mean, you cannot say it is only because of that. Both of them are true. It is the seat of, the reason why it is the seat of vata is when a lot of waste is stored there, there can be a lot of gas and bloating.
Right.
And when they say it's a seat of Vata, what they're mainly talking about is the seat of wind energy.
Yeah.
That is one aspect. Another thing is the lower abdomen is where your hips are joining, and hips are the place where you can move and move forward. So that is also one of the reasons. And when you're having constipation, you can have lower back pain, you can have a lot of other issues. Your whole life comes to it's like having a handbrake on and trying to drive your automobile.
Yeah.
So that is why it is called as the seat of Vata, because your movement is affected when the peristaltic movement of the large intestine is affected. It just talks about the movement. That's why it is called as the seat of Vata.
Okay.
So when you cleanse that part with an enema, see, the beauty of enema is, you cannot clean the large intestine by giving some medicine through the mouth, because by the time it reaches the end part, the liver will go and stop it.
Right.
So the only way you can clean the large intestine, you need to take the other exit.
Yeah.
So the liver will not interfere, and the cleansing is, and it is also considered, it has to be done under proper physician's, observation.
Right. And an enema, it would be less invasive than like the current day colonic.
There is a slight difference. In current day colonics, they use water, they use coffee enema, they use many other aspects. But in Ayurveda, we use a lot of oil medium along with this, because without oil medium, the cleansing cannot be proper.
Right.
It's like using a strong pesticide, but you're killing the whole plant itself.
Yes, yes.
So we have to go in an organic way. That is why in Ayurveda we use a lot of herbs, we use the castor oil seeds, we use salt, we use water, we use honey in it, and oil is also used in it, so that the mucus medium is not altered.
Wonderful. It's so much more nourishing for the body too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that is why Ayurveda talks a lot about Vasti when it comes to rejuvenation. And after that, when that person is subjected to a therapy called as Rasayana. And Rasayana is a therapy where you balance all the 7 Dhatus. It gives you a complete upgrade or a transformation to all the 7 Dhatus. Right. But in Ayurveda, it is mentioned, before you do the rejuvenation for all the Dhatus, an intense purification is mandatory. See, like before you paint a wall, you have to make sure you remove the old dirty paint. Only then you can paint on it. But if the old paint is still there, maybe you have a mental satisfaction, you painted something, but it is not really sticking to the wall. It will just go away. So that is why in Ayurveda, when it comes to male fertility, an intense purification, and then when we give the Rasayana therapy, there are many fantastic Rasayana therapies that we administer after the cleanse. And that will nourish each dhatu step by step. And then you see, and when you check the spermogram, they say, wow, this is miracle. How can this change so fast?
Yeah, it's wonderful, isn't it? And can give people such confidence to know that they can do it. It just takes, some time out to take care of yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Now, and so Panchakarma means 5 steps, right? 5 preparations. You've just gone through them, but can you just name the 5 steps?
Panchakarma is the 5 therapies. Like one is Nasyam, where you pour medicated oil or even salt water through your nose to cleanse the nasal part. And then you have the Vamana, which is the vomiting therapy. And then you have Virechana, which is like a therapeutic diarrhea.
The purgation, okay.
Purgation, yes.
Yeah.
And then you have the enema. And then the 5th one is bloodletting or rectal motion.
Yes. Okay. And so not everybody will go through those 5 steps. Like you said, it's all tailored to each individual.
Yes. Usually when a person comes, we do like 2 or 3 procedures. But there are also conditions where we did all the 5 procedures, but that happened when, and see, this process is not easy and it cannot be taken by everyone. You need a proper trust with the patient, and the patient has to trust you, and the patient should be ready to do this. And on top of that, he needs to have enough time to do that.
Right, exactly.
So, and because after this therapy, you need time to recover from this. Even though the benefit is like fantastic, you're completely giving life to a person who is alive in a dead body.
Yeah.
You're making that person alive. He doesn't go back to his old patterns. He gets rid of his cravings. His energy levels are fantastic. He goes to sleep on time, and his libido gets an upgrade, and everything transforms. But it has to go through a very strict, disciplined protocol.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, at the end of the panchakarma, there is a depletion. The body has to now build back up, which is why it's necessary to have this rasayana, this rejuvenation.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
See, after you clean the wall, you paint it. And the purpose of Ayurveda is Panchakarma is a process before Rasayana. And if you want to do Rasayana, you have to clean. Just like when you put your clothes for laundry, you remove all the coins and the notes and the papers from your body and then put it. Same way you release all the toxins from the body, and then when you give the Rasayana, that's when it really benefits.
Right. Okay, great. And I didn't mean to skip over bloodletting, because I know some people are probably going, what's that? So
by the way, bloodletting in Ayurveda, you see, when, whatever we put inside our mouth, in the end, it is going to be a part of the blood.
Yeah.
Some of it. So, if and the quality of our life is the quality of our blood. And in Ayurveda, the word for the indication of blood is jivana, which is, it gives life, and when it comes to blood, some people have high blood pressure, some people have high levels of uric acid, some people have too much of cholesterol. And, when the body is clean, there could be still some toxins left in your bloodstream. So you can eliminate about 150 to up to 200 ml of blood, depending on your condition. And you see, according to World Health Organization, you can donate up to 450 ml, almost half a liter of blood, every 3 months if you're not anemic, if you're not pregnant, if you're not having low blood pressure, or if you're not having any blood disorders.
Right.
But after the panchakarma, if the person is having enough energy, and usually we do this bloodletting for people with high blood pressure, high levels of gout, or skin disorders like eczema, dermatitis, psoriasis. In such conditions, we do this bloodletting.
More in high pitta cases?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, you mentioned earlier that panchakarma isn't for everyone, and, it can be divided into two. Panchakarma for people who overconsume, and then there's malnourishment. So for people who are malnourished, do you do more of a rejuvenative, nourishing panchakarma?
See, when people are saying malnourished, it could be anorexia, it could be low weight, or people with irritable bowel syndrome. In such conditions, what we have to do is, for them, what they need is not panchakarma. Panchakarma is having a high obsession with getting rid of the excess kapha.
Right.
And when people are having malnourishment, their vata is high. So in such conditions, we do a therapy called as palliative or shamana. Shamana is more like, you give them therapies to relax their body, calm down their nervous system, and getting their sleep on time, making sure they're eating on time. When we focus on counseling, we do on yoga, meditation.
Right.
So people with low malnourishment, it's not that they don't have access to food. They are eating, but they are not just able to digest it properly. So what they need is, they need to improve their digestive ability. The Agni has to be improved. So to improve the Agni, it is something for, we have to relax the whole system. Maybe 1 or 2 panchakarma therapies could be done, like Nasyam could be done. In some conditions like irritable bowel syndrome, we have some enemas that are being done.
Right.
But you see, when it comes to male fertility, we could have male fertility because of overconsumption and also because of malnourishment. It's not necessarily. But today we see most of the issues because of overconsumption issues than malnourishment.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you for answering that. And I also wanted to ask you about we talk a lot about menopause on the podcast. We just did a show recently on that. And I always mention that males go through a transition too, called andropause in Western medicine. Can you talk to us about this transition for men at the end of the pitta stage of life?
The word for human body, it is called as Sharira. The word Sharira means that which keeps dying every moment. So so every time we are a new person, every oxygen that we are inhaling and every carbon dioxide that we are exhaling, we are saying goodbye to something that is not a part of us.
Right.
So as the age grows, if they are not taking good care of themselves, this can lead to a lot of hormonal shifts. Testosterone could come down if they are not exercising.
Right.
And once this goes down, their libido is also affected. And they come to a stage, okay, there's a midlife crisis or something is happening. But in my observation, this is more of a concern when they are not able to deal with their stress levels well. See, I've seen patients who are 40 or even late 30s-year-old men saying that, they are talking like they are about to retire. And I've seen men in their late 70s and early 80s talking like there's so much to do in life. So it's all about, to a great extent, it has something to do with their lifestyle.
Right.
But in such conditions, the herbs that we give are ashwagandha is fantastic, gokshura is fantastic, and also the herbs that enhance the nervous functioning, like brahmi, medhi rasayanas, all these are something that helps them.
Very good. So is there a natural decline in testosterone as we transition to the Vata stage of life?
See, according to the modern medicine, they say that we all have something called as the growth hormones.
Yeah.
So after the age of 30, technically this growth hormone production can come to a saturation point because the body has reached a state where all the growth has happened. Our height need not go beyond certain age.
Mm-hmm.
But it is observed, when people get into an accident and then the body has to, recover from this, then the whole hormone is also released. So what it is found out is when people who are obsessed with good exercise, for them, they can, to a great extent, keep it stable.
Mm-hmm.
But people who are not see, the muscle is the organ that decides about the longevity. And if you see all the dhatus, rasa, rakta, mamsa, like the rasa, the blood, the muscles, and you talk about the medas, the bone marrow, the bones, and the shukra. Among all the 7, except for one, all the others are having kapha in it.
Right.
Kapha is the main dhatu in that.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to, especially with the muscle, if you are not using it, then the next dhatu is the fat. The fat absorption becomes more, and the body holds on to the fat. So when people are not, and how the muscle, the best therapy to maintain your muscles are proper is by exercise.
Right.
And that is why, according to Ayurveda, exercise should be a part of your daily ritual.
Mm-hmm.
I think we talked about this in our podcast on Dinacharya.
Yes, indeed. And we have to be careful in today's world that it's not over-exercising, so we're not depleting the Vata.
Exactly. That is why in Ayurveda it is mentioned, the exercise should be done in Ardha Shakti. The word Ardha Shakti means half of your strength.
Yeah.
See, we are obsessed with, I want to look shredded, I want to lose all my fat.
Right.
And I want to have 6 packs, these kind of things. Okay, they could be healthy as long as your health is there. Health and fitness are not the same.
Mm-hmm.
So in Ayurveda, it is mentioned your exercise should be half your strength. After the exercise, if you're feeling tired, depleted, dehydrated, then you're overdoing it. It will kill you, just like the way an elephant can kill the lion. The same way this exercise will kill you if you are overdoing it.
Right.
So
exactly.
you have to be careful. It is not about the intensity, it is about consistency. So it is said that you have to be consistent with your exercise. That is where your muscle tissue is being strengthened. And only if your muscle tissue strengthening is a part of male fertility.
Mm-hmm.
See, the heart is a muscle. The erectile tissue is also a muscle. So it is all about how strong is your muscle.
Exactly. And another thing that we have to be consistent with is the Dinacharya. And from our talk today, Dr. Vignesh, we can clearly see what you do day in, day out has a huge effect on your health.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. And I really wish that everybody could take time out every year to do a panchakarma because
Nice.
the effects would be wonderful for everybody's health, and just give that time out to reflect on your life and where you're going and what you want for the coming year. I think it would be a wonderful thing if everybody could feel this effect, but it's definitely beneficial in relation to male infertility or in the preconception phase, right? For a couple to go through a panchakarma like 6 months previous to conceiving.
Like the concept of eugenics, it is mentioned in Ashtanga Hridayam. Before a couple wants to conceive a baby, they both have to undergo the purification process.
Yeah, I think that's so great.
See, once the body is pure, then people are so much in a hurry to have a baby, and then they struggle with all the health effects of the baby which they inherit.
Mm-hmm.
But when they purify themselves, the seed is much healthier.
Yeah.
Somewhere I read, people are so invested in washing their hands after they pee, but it is equally important to wash your hands before you pee. It's just the fact that, you have to cleanse yourself before you give birth.
Yes, yes. So that you're giving that child the best of your Dhatus and the best of you. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. A large majority of listeners are women, but as we know, women often play a big role in men's health and encourage them to take care of themselves. And so, Dr. Vignesh, if you could tell us more about you and your retreat center, Sitaram Beach Retreat, and your offerings. Please.
I run a Panchakarma retreat called Sitaram Beach Retreat. I mean, the reason why I started this, even though I'm an Ayurvedic doctor, I was not living so healthy. And I was like a hypocrite doctor telling others, but I myself was living in an unhealthy lifestyle. So I reached a stage where I myself had to undergo the Panchakarma. And when I went through this, I realized it's not an easy therapy. So I wanted to create a place where this uncomfortable process is made comfortable. So one of the element that can make it comfortable is the element of nature. So I created a place where you can blend with nature when you do this detox. And it's not just a cleansing of your body. It's also, you're going inward. You're releasing a lot of your emotional stress and a lot of other healings that has to happen parallelly with the Panchakarma. So I created this place where you blend the energy of nature and the intensive Panchakarma as we do in a traditional way in Kerala. So that is what we do. And you can find my work in sitaramretreat.com.
Wonderful. And it looks beautiful. I just had a look at it before we started recording, and it looks lovely, just right on the beach. So luscious, the vegetation, it just looks so peaceful.
Oh, yes. Because nature plays an important role. Nobody spends time in forest and say, I feel depressed afterwards. They feel energized.
Right. So true. And, I always say that the effect of going to a retreat center for a panchakarma is huge, because you can never get the same level of healing at home because you're being cared for. You don't have to make any decisions. Like you said earlier, you're in airplane mode.
Exactly. I mean, see, you buy an automobile, you service it after a few kilometers, after 1,000 kilometers. The same way our body also needs to have a overall.
Right. Absolutely. We need to take care of our vehicle. So, Dr. Vignesh, thank you so much. And I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you so much, Colette. It was really a pleasure. And keep doing the work that you're doing in reaching out to so many people, giving the wisdom of Ayurveda.
Wonderful. Thank you. And we should tell people about your podcast. Excuse me, I forgot to mention that.
And all those for listening, I did a podcast with Colette on the power of Dinacharya. It's the latest episode, number 17. It's called Ayurvedic Healing and Beyond. It's available in all the platforms.
Beautiful. Yes. And you continue doing all the wonderful work you're doing with the Panchakarma at the Sitaram Beach Resort and the podcast. And it's a pleasure, Dr. Vignesh, to connect with you.
Thank you so much, Colette.
Thank you. Take good care of yourself.
Yes, bye.
Bye-bye. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Dr. Vignesh, and please check out the Sitaram Beach Retreat website. I'll put the link in the show notes, along with Dr. Vignesh's new podcast, Ayurvedic Healing and Beyond. If you're interested in learning more about the Dinacharya, the daily self-care practices we spoke about in this podcast episode, which are so important for your health and well-being, please check out my self-paced online course over on my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com, and I'll put that link in the show notes also. If you think that this episode will be helpful to family or friends, please share it with them. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the podcast and rate and review it wherever you listen to your podcast. I would really appreciate that. If you would like to support the podcast, you can do so over on my Patreon page. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take good care of yourself, be well, and ciao for now.